My spouse started acting suspiciously after accompanying his best friend, a girlfriend, and myself to a concert. My snooping revealed that she liked him after he came home late. My best friend Dana and my husband are acting strangely, and I'm not sure if it's a dream or real. Phil and I are in our early 30s and married for 4 years. We're thrilled together. He loves me, but I don't like that he sometimes lies to spare my feelings. Since we were. Dana was my college roommate and dearest buddy. Dana's partner, and she split last year after 3 years of commitment. He had many insecurities about Dana and tightly controlled her social life. Dana's boyfriend was jealous of Phil and avoided him. However, Dana and I have become closer since the breakup and spend a lot of time together shopping and eating. Phil occasionally joins us and enjoys it. Dana, who gets along with Phil, urged me to set up a blind date between them immediately if I meet another Phil. Phil, Dana, and I went to a local show a month ago. Phil was thrilled because it was his favorite band. I felt sick and wanted to relax the morning of the event. Phil was sad, but he said we could give our friends our tickets and see the band later. We're pals, therefore I called a few friends to attend the concert in my place. Jess, Dana and I's friend, was happy to do so. Phil intended to cancel it. I persuaded him to go since I'd feel bad if he hadn't attended the concert. They enjoyed the concert together. Phil never ceased sending me nighttime photos. Because of my medication, I fell asleep before the concert's 11 p.m. end. My morning began with me alone in bed. Phil gave me a final message at 11 p.m. saying they were heading after dropping Dana off at the concert. I checked my texts immediately. I entered the living room to find Phil sleeping on the couch, still dressed for the concert. I waited for his assent. I inquired about his evening and returned home. He said he came home, 2 to 3 in the morning. He said there were many accidents and bad traffic outside the concert venue. He said he left Dana off at her residence and drove home. He said he was too tired to get out of his clothes and didn't want to wake me up when I inquired why he was sleeping on the couch. Phil danced amid the concert-goers' crowd, making his garments dazzling. He sank into the couch and fell asleep immediately. It made logical, and Dana agreed. After this evening, odd behavior occurred. First, Phil stopped going around when I was with Dana. He made the most ridiculous excuses not to go out with me while Dana was around. Since then, Phil has grown distant from me. And I've seen that he plays video games in his home office at night instead of retiring to bed. After shopping 2 weeks ago, I invited Dana over for drinks at our house, and she started making excuses. A day had passed since Dana visited our house. Phil and Dana met at my friend's house party last weekend. Their actions showed they were avoiding each other. Phil said it was all in his head when I asked him why he wasn't with Dana. Dana said the same thing. But then she makes crazy excuses to avoid our flat. Their behavior looks odd, but maybe I'm insecure. How do I know? I've checked Phil's phone several times, but he rarely texts Dana. Nobody has messaged since that evening. I think something happened that evening, and they're both attempting to avoid explaining why they're avoiding each other. Am I the only one who assumed the worst? Even though I don't want to seem insecure, it's killing me. Operator responses 666 NTA. Undoubtedly, something happened. What's the only query? Based on what you mentioned about her ex, saying she never liked him and wanted a date with a different man, she may have always liked him. Perhaps drunk, she went all in. If you can't find the truth without evidence, sit them down, confront them, and demand the truth. I'd like to too. I think if I'm wrong, Phil will be offended that I'm accusing him of anything wrong, and I'll lose a friend. I smell something off, but I'm terrified to open it. Door. Has your other friend, Lopsided Aole 9476, told you anything about their odd behavior that evening? You should confront them either way. Instead of accusing them of cheating, you may mention that their actions are troubling, and that you want to know if there is a problem or anything you can do to excuse their distance. Oh my, I spoke with Jess but didn't ask about strange behavior. Phil and Dana went to the parking lot after the show, but she said they had fun, and she shot the picture. Train home. A few _safe_3700 occurrence happened. Just one question. Something went wrong in their relationship, whether they did something together, tried something and the other person said no, or did something different. Oop. I'm also scared because Phil got home late. He rarely sleeps on couches, but this was certainly his first in years. He was coated in glitter, and the next day I found glitter on Dana's car seat. My mind is racing, but it may be nothing. I don't know how to mention that without sounding crazy. Accusing. He glittered underneath, or on his clothes. He got it on his arms and clothes. They may have hugged, which is fine. He took a shower afterward, so I don't know if it was elsewhere. Update: last week I mentioned my best friend and husband avoided each other after a concert last month. Thank you for helping me through my tough time and solving my technological issues. Apologies for the substantial article, but I discovered what happened when I faced Phil and banged Dana. I briefly used Phil's phone last Friday night. I was too busy to recover deleted emails. After someone suggested it, I checked through his camera album to see his evening photos. Dana's clothes attracted my eye initially. Dana wore denim shorts and a white top to the show. Since it was an outdoor concert, she wore only a blue bikini top after removing her shirt. Her back and shoulder featured glittering fake tattoos. She put her shirt back on at night. So Dana had to take off her shirt. Automobile so glitter could cover Phil's seat and clothes. I was so irritated I lost my cool. I confronted Phil. He immediately cried and apologized. He blamed himself for going too far and said he felt miserable all month. He said he wanted to forget it and didn't want to tell me because I'd be upset. I requested a detailed account, which he provided. He told me Dana and Jess drank at the concert. Dana required Phil's help getting to the car. Dana fell asleep for an hour. Automobile as Phil drove. As soon as she stood up, she played and sang loudly. Before Phil could turn down the air conditioner, she told him the car was too hot to drive. She took off her shirt to check the temperature. Phil was getting quite uncomfortable and asked if he could drive to our house, and Dana slept in the guest room as her apartment would have forced her to drive another 30 minutes. She demanded to go home, so Phil drove her. She requested Phil to take her home because she was still feeling tippy when she left. Phil received a hug and thanks from her. Opened the flat door. After a minute, Phil apologized for the long hug. With tears in my eyes, I asked if they kissed. Phil told me they had a moment, but he couldn't explain it. He informed me he had to leave soon and get to the car, despite Dana's invitation. I kept asking him what happened, and he replied they had an uncontrollable moment and left. After coming home, Dana texted Phil saying he should have entered the flat. Phil continually assured Dana that she should move forward from the accident. Dana refused to stop asking Phil if he liked her and was attracted to her. Phil told Dana that he would never be attracted to her and requested her not to tell me. He deleted all communications following her consent. He said he sat on the couch to avoid hearing their extended conversation. When I asked if he could retrieve the communications, he said he destroyed them along with his sent messages and archives. His only wish was to forget it. After showing him my post, I thanked him for commenting. We checked the SD card for messages, and Phil was right, communications matched his description. Phil for not telling me earlier still annoys me. Strange things happened here. My invited guest Dana joined me for brunch yesterday. I told her Phil had confessed everything from the performance that night. I asked to let her tell her story. Dana reacted defensively. Nothing changed until they reached her apartment complex. Dana enjoyed her evening after opening her apartment door and hugging Phil. Phil seemed to want more, but nothing happened. She invited him into the flat, so I inquired why. She wanted to give him water and a snack after driving for a long. I told her asking my spouse over at 1 a.m. was a horrible idea. Evening. She stated I was envious and crazy when she realized he wanted more than a hug. As we argued, she yelled that she wasn't popping boners during the hug. I told her our friendship was ended and she would never see Phil again. She yelled that she knew Phil loved her but didn't express it because of me. I don't deserve Phil, she said, and I always whine about him. Her claim was that Phil has been good to her since their breakup, and she thinks he would leave me for her if he could. Finally, she stated that she could make Phil happier than I could, and he is starting to realize this. I left to avoid an explosion. Phil and I talked about Dana's words at night. He said he was aroused holding Dana that evening, but he doesn't know why. After the hug, Dana took his hand and said, "Come on in." He ran to his car. He stated that he feels awful about it, but is not in love with Dana. He professed his satisfaction in being married to me and wanted to continue that way forever. I am relieved that nothing bad transpired between them, but I have trouble sorting my sentiments. Phil's late-night embrace of Dana, who was hardly clad, upsets me. He should be more aware. I found it disrespectful that my best buddy liked my spouse. Things I was unaware of, and encouraged them to attend the concert together. Remarks. 1431 Winterfront. I'd change both your phone numbers and inform everyone about Dana. Though he hid it from you, let you hang out with her, and had a moment, I wouldn't absolve Phil. Lied to you and texted her thereafter. Ask him to return. Marriage therapy to build trust. Yes, oop. I told him that gets me angry. He should have notified me that Dana taking off her top and car was a red flag instead of playing cat and mouse. Initially he wrote _romance to avoid the concert. I wonder if she embarrassed him before. We mentioned this earlier. He said this was her first statement or action. He also said he had only seen her when I was with them. Writers emphasize romance. Happy to hear you solved the puzzle. For some reason, this anecdote made me uncomfortable. I usually read these impartially, but something in my stomach told me your buddy was acting like a tree. Oop, I always considered Dana a sister. People you suspect are frequently the least likely. Why she did that to me is beyond me. It's unpleasant. Avoid excusing Phil, Leek says. He should focus on your relationship because he made many bad judgments that night. Dana wasn't your friend since friends wouldn't harm you. I won't. His actions have enraged me. He hid facts from me to hurt me. He always tries to fix others' issues to protect them. Someday it will hurt him. Proceed to the next tale. Second narrative. My son smashed the family vase. He rejected my numerous replacement offers. He's hated it since, calling my son names and getting unhappy when I bought him a new one. In my teens, my father bought a large glass vase and filled it with wine corks. For years, it sat on a small living room table. My family has monthly lunches with him. Last October, my son accidentally knocked down my father's living room table while playing on the table. The vase broke and fell. I immediately apologized and promised a new vase. My spouse and I cleaned up. My father rejected my replacement offer. At the moment, he said he recognized it was an accident and was glad my son wasn't hurt. The floor was covered in glass, and he was too. Over the following months, I offered to pay for a new vase and apologized. My father said everything was okay. However, early this year, my father began gushing about the cork vase, how much it cost when he bought it. As months passed, his resentments increased. When we visited, he said my son shattered the vase almost every time. He sometimes joked that we should give ourselves more notice for visits so he could hide his treasures from my child. We attended his apartment party last week. The vase was missing when a friend who hadn't been over asked about it. My father said I hadn't replaced it and that my little crap had destroyed it. My spouse heard it nearby. I fought my father after the celebration. Because my son damaged his property, he claimed a right to a complaint. I told him he can be angry, but he can't gripe about my not purchasing him a new vase since he declined my offer. He may either apologize to me or move on from the vase and stop blaming my toddler. My son can cease being called names because of this. My dad keeps telling me I'm doing it wrong. AITA remarks, Christmas, give him a vase every holiday. Give him so many vases he wishes he never seen another. Issue resolved. I love your thinking, so make me distinctive. Buy your dad an empty vase and wine to remedy his irritability. ETA, put the cork in the vase. At the next party, mention how often you had to drink to placate him. I considered buying champagne and a vase, Dvorsky. The cork hits the vase again, smashing it again. The Marine underscore is 0311. FFS, your son acted like a toddler. Your dad should have toddler-proof the house. He can STF you. He declined your offer to buy a vase. Wine cork collections and exhibitions have always seemed odd to me. See how much I drink, everyone. One little bean depends on your method. My in-laws open champagne for graduations, anniversaries, and big birthdays. They write the occasion on the saved cork. I think it's a terrific way to highlight all the reasons to rejoice over the years. It wasn't terrible to ban me from running around other people's houses. 773. I apologize for your parents' complaints. Why not get a new vase? Dog broke dad's glass water bottle. The bottle was costly, exactly $100. Not to worry, he said. It was on the couch edge as my dog passed by. I sent his house the identical bottle. Despite not needing another, he was thrilled. My friends come over and we let the kids run around at a park. We sit on my grandma's porch when the kids play. Kids should know where they may and cannot run. His toddler toys should have been outside or with him. My dad's house is full of glass, so I can't imagine letting him. My youngster runs about. He shouldn't have complained, and you should have changed it. Space Ace case. Why wouldn't she buy a new one if her child broke it? Instead of asking if she had two, a logical person would replace it. Nefariousness 773 isn't highlighted. Even if he said no, I would have replaced it when he complained. If he complained, I could immediately interrogate him about the one I replaced. I'm commenting because it has the most votes on this topic. I know people think I let my toddler run about, homes unconstrained. Not true. My youngster started playing before the crash. I was too slow to stop him. Our future visits to anyone, my spouse and I interrupted him early. This is unlike my son, who is typically calm. I offered to replace the vase several times that day. He declined, so I didn't buy. After that rejection, I doubted my father wanted me to replace the vase. I wouldn't expect someone to pursue this offer, and I wouldn't hold it against them if I declined. In response to a removed comment, Oop explains why this is a problem. Months have passed since I mentioned the vase. Only my father does this. His remarks worsen, which is the sole reason I'm engaged. Dragon 34, your father's age? The Dementia Oop 60 update causes anger and personality changes. After reading your comments, I offered my father a new vase again. I informed him that this was my last offer. If he resisted and whined, I threatened to bar him from visiting my son until he calmed down. Finally, he agreed. His original vase is gone from the store. Thus began my research. A nearby furniture store had one I liked, somewhat similar. I had bought vases from them, so I knew their quality. Saturday's monthly lunch at my father's house was when I gave him the new vase. He seemed appreciative and had a sweet moment with my son while filling it with corks. I thought this was done. My father called me the next day. The new vase was cheaper than he expected after researching it online. "Are you sure this is the best you could find?" he said. Then I said screw it, his passive-aggressive behavior ends. No more visits to my father's house, I told him. He can visit our family if he wants to see mine. I persisted despite his protests. My father expressed discontent with the outcome, despite never expressing his wishes. I'm sick of family allegations. This conduct shouldn't be added to what my son already faces. So, this is the situation. Dad hates taking the car to visit my home. I'm unsure how our monthly meals will continue. I love my father, yet am disappointed by him. If this means I won't see him as often, I could be relieved. Our time apart may benefit us. First and foremost, I'll support my son's grandfather-son bond. The vase I bought costs about $100 since I don't live in the US. My father told me the original was more expensive, but he can't remember how much. He cared more about the corks he saved in the vase than the vase itself. I'm sure the new vase is good. Art Shapiro NTA amazing. His behavior is bizarrely hilarious unless the new vase is clearly defective, which your description does not suggest. You created what I believe to be the greatest solution. He must now humble himself. I've helped, even though I don't regret buying the vase. My reaction would never match my father's. Furthermore, I trust its quality. Van Driesen, NTA. He professes to have moved on yet keeps talking about it, similar to when someone gives you a favor without telling you. Did they treat you well? He liked the vase until he checked the price. If his original approval was based on price, what difference does it make? The pettiness of individuals is astonishing. He values the vase's price more than his grandchild. Good. Apart. BS from ad 6518 should not be shown to your child. The new vase was cheaper than he expected after researching it online. Who does that to a family member who has tried to apologize? First and foremost, I'll support my son's grandfather-son bond. That's great. Your dad must work and realize what counts. I hope he does. Always crucial to me is that my child has a better bond with his family because I was reared far from my grandparents. I know my father must work hard here. Wienerold, protect your son. He's the smartass who teases grandpas. Funny family stories stick with recipients. Fearful Yak 7741 has reminded me of how I was made to feel horrible for losing my great-grandfather's violin pitch pipe. Like how my grandmother's fury cost my dad the family relic. I checked eBay and discovered a $4 replacement pipe in its original packaging. My grandmother made me feel monster-like for $4. Reader from Florida, have you considered the possibility that your father has dementia? Some dementia patients become fixated on objects and repeat queries. I discovered your dad may have early dementia symptoms. You can treat dementia, which may halt or prevent sickness progression. As a social worker, I help dementia patients. I've known folks like this for years, best friend. They whine to attract attention and never accept a solution. Extremely draining and goodbye, like bending a college graduate. I recognized it immediately because others like him had impressed me. His lying concerns me. At his party he lied that they had never offered to replace it. His whining shows that he enjoys it.